Last week we began our winter landscape in the style of Arayni. She creates detailed landscapes in black and white, contrasted by colorful watercolor skies. Today we will be focusing on the sky. We will use a fun watercolor technique that creates texture with salt. Decide what colors you will use and get your paints ready. We will use a wet-on-wet technique with our watercolor paints. Start by wetting sections of your paper with plain water and then adding the color while the paper is still wet. This allows the paint to spread and blend in a unique way. While the paint is wet, sprinkle a little bit of salt on the wet paint. It is very important to make sure that the paint is still wet when you add the salt. If you add the salt once the paint is dry, the technique will not work. It helps if you work one small section at a time so you can be sure your paint stays wet. You will notice that the salt crystals soak up the liquid from the watercolor paint, leaving behind areas without as much color. Using different sizes of salt crystals will create different patterns of texture. Larger salt crystals will soak up more color and leave behind a bold design. Fine table salt crystals will leave behind a softer texture. Leave the salt on your artwork while your paint dries. Once your work has dried completely, use a clean hand to rub the salt off of your work.